All right, Fresh. Let's go to another big time. Guys, get your cigars ready. We're going down to the state of Alabama, Tennessee. Good old Rocky Top. You're going to Alabama. Did something you haven't done in a very, very long time last year. You beat Nick Saban in Knoxville, and then you tore down your goalpost and threw it into the river. Love it. Man, this is weird because both of these teams had such I don't want to say high hopes. Alabama has high expectations, Fresh, and there's no getting around it. And Alabama's having even at 6-1 and 4-0 in the conference, Alabama is having a disappointing year by their standards, which is bizarre to me. And then Tennessee 5-1, you know, 2-1 the conference there. I don't know. At time of record, Alabama is a 9-point favorite. Over under in this game is set at 49. I'm really strong on taking the under in this game, Fresh. I think this is going to be really, really, really low scoring. But I'll throw it over to you. What you got?
I think these teams this year are actually almost identical. Their offenses have been hit or miss every single game. Their defenses have actually been pretty on point for the most part, getting after the quarterback especially. Um, Alabama's tied with James Madison for third in the nation with 26 sacks as a team. The Vols are right after them with 24, and they're tied with Jacksonville State. Both these teams are getting after the quarterback and getting and making the other team really play long down and distance situations and getting off the field. When you think they're about to break, they come home, they get a sack, or they get off the field. They both have played really well. Tennessee's defense this year, as they held them back last year and they held them back the year before, they have I feel like they kind of turned the corner a little bit. They're playing a little better coverage in the secondary. They're getting turnovers. They're getting off the field. They have been a major bright spot because Joe Milton has definitely been hit or miss. Even the running game has been pretty good for Tennessee, but Joe Milton has actually probably left some points in the field. But the defense, if this was last year's squad or the squad before, they might have had another loss there because the defense just couldn't stop anybody and the offense couldn't score. They're finding a little more of a balance right now, or Josh Heupel, and maybe it's the right recipe for success for the Vols to come in here to Tuscaloosa and get a win and win back to back for the first time in whoever knows how long. Um, this is it's a different, unique, and maybe it's good for Heupel to have to rely on his defense to actually win and let the offense sort of develop as the season goes, as opposed to waiting for the defense to catch up and having a high flying offense. Um, the balls are throwing for 212, but they're running for 231. They're almost a 50-50 offense, basically. And maybe the running game is because they're trying to run the clock out and save their offense and save the defense and play more complementary. Maybe because they're blowing people out, they're running the ball in the second half. But either way, they have become a very even, balanced offense, which I think helps them in tough situations where you can go and run the ball a couple times, get some first downs, slow the pace down, help your quarterback. I mean, Joe Milton should be out there throwing the ball. I mean, the guy self-proclaimed could throw it 150 yards, but he's not hitting receivers. He might overthrow him by 20. And I think that's where Heupel's had to learn. I've got to pull it back a little bit and run the football and help my own quarterback out. And my defense is playing good, so I don't have to score 50 every day. Every team wants to score 50 points, but if you have deficiencies and you're starting to see your defense play better, you can maybe call your game a little different. You're going to need the running game in Tuscaloosa to win the football game. If you come out there and start chucking it and getting a 3-and-out, Milroe and that Alabama offense will eventually get it going. But Tennessee's defense and running the football is going to really help them in this road game because we know we've talked about it a million times. Defense and running games travel. Passing games hit or miss, but defense always travels, and so does the ground game. They're great complements of each other. And I think Josh Heupel at the right time is starting to find that good balance in that offense and that defense to get them playing in the right way. I think they've also learned a lot from that loss to Florida. They were not tough. They were weak. They were soft defensively at Florida. They got run all over by a Gator team that is so-so. I think they have a good defense. Their offense is average, but they got beat out physical at the line of scrimmage, and they've learned from that football game. This is that next road game. Can they learn and take those lessons and actually put them into practice? You're not coming in with we haven't won in forever. Now you're coming off a win. The expectation now is you win back to back. You're not going to try to get lucky and win one for the first time. You have to go and back up your effort. For everything you did last year and how the great praise, it still took you to survive an Alabama comeback in the second half and hit a walk-off field goal to win. It's not like you blew Alabama out. That team was one of the most mediocre Alabama teams we've seen collectively across the board, and you still barely beat them. Now you're coming in with a very similar Alabama football team, and your team's not as great as it was last year. Where do you dig deep and show up at? Which of you Vols want to give all for Tennessee on Saturday and going down to Tuscaloosa? If you go down there and get thumped, it's basically like last year was all great, but did you go to the playoff? No. Did you play for the SEC title? No. It actually kind of felt like it's a worthless win over Alabama if nothing actually came of the victory. You have a chance of keeping yourself alive. If you lose to Alabama, that's 2 conference losses. That puts you almost out of the Eastern, run for the SEC championship game, and you're just another ho-hum team playing for 24 then. And at what point you keep playing for 24? Does that become playing for 25? You keep kicking the can down the road. You got to maximize your opportunities if you're Tennessee. Josh Heupel, you have to call your best game. Defensively, you got to play your best game if you want to beat Nick Saban. This Alabama team, as I turn the corner to the Tide, they have quietly gotten over the loss to Texas. They have played ugly, but they've won. They have won. They went to A&M. They won. They beat Ole Miss. They survived Arkansas. But the thing is, they've won, and the defense has gotten better and better every single week. The offense is efficient right now. Milroe's not fantastic. The offensive line is horrible. I mean, they've given up 31 sacks, which is 130th in the nation. If you put them in passing situations, that offensive line most likely is going to collapse, and you're going to be able to get a sack. Alabama's you're going to have to stop the running game and force them in those passing situations. If they're running the football with intent and they're keeping the down distance under control, you're going to have a tough time stopping that Alabama offense. They're going to do just enough to find a way to score some points. Being at home is going to give them an extra boost. Losing last year is going to give them an extra boost. To look back at Game of Thrones, I don't know how many people are Game of Thrones fans out there, but to refer, the North remembers, the Tide remember. They remember last year. They see all the cigars. They remember see all the sights telling their dynasty was over last year. They remember. That's been beaten to their minds every single day of the offseason. We both said during the spring and even during preseason previews, we called for Alabama to roll them. I don't think Alabama's going to roll Tennessee in this ball game after seeing the way they've played, but they're going to be physical enough and prepared enough to take on Tennessee, and they have revenge in their mindset. They remember everything that happened in the football game. They also remember how close they came to beating, quote unquote, the best Tennessee team in the past 20 years. This is going to be a hard fought, old school Alabama Tennessee game. You're going to see teams battle. They're not going to get anywhere close to hitting the over in this football game. This might be like a 17-10, 17-13. Pads will be popping. There will be personal foul penalties all across the board. This will be a classic old school SEC run the football, hit you in the mouth. You know what? Nick Saban might even tell his team to go out there and get a couple personal fouls just to keep the intensity and to send a message to Tennessee that we are not going to mess around. We're going to hit you, and we're going to be the most physical football team. This Tennessee team will actually probably run into a 09 version of Alabama where they're going to run the ball, 2 tight ends, I formation if they have to. They might throw the ball 10 times, but they're going to run the ball 40 or 50 times down your throat, kill the clock, take it away, and show that they are not going anywhere. And they are still Alabama, and they actually continue to layer on their resume of they are here moving one game at a time, heading toward Atlanta, and they are not dead, and they are nowhere near gone in the SEC and in the national landscape. Tennessee might, if they can't get an offense, and Joe Milton has struggles early, it could get ugly because I don't know where he'll get. He might get the flow knocked out. Be prepared for a 4-quarter brawl in Tuscaloosa on Saturday. I think Milroe throws 1 touchdown, and they find a way to survive in a 19-10, 17-10, 17-13 game. This will be ugly. There will be blood on the field, but Alabama will survive in a very, very just old school rock'em sock'em football game. And Josh Heupel will have to do some serious asking and answering us some questions about why his team has 2 losses and where they're going to go from there. But Alabama will survive and win.
Right. This is we said earlier, it's weird that this is a transitional year for Tennessee and the Vols. I didn't expect them to make a bunch of noise. And they're quietly 6-1 on the year. And this is again as you said, or I'm sorry, 5-1 on the year. But this is the first time that they're leaving Knoxville since that Florida loss. And I think this is going to tell us a lot about this Tennessee team. Is it going to be a wait till next year? They got some kids coming in. They got some really good talent coming in here in the next year or so. So I don't I'm not too worried about Tennessee long term in this game. They come out, they get blown out. And I think that there will be some questions, why we're still, at 2 losses. Why are we rolling with Joe Milton? Let's start getting Nico some playing time. Let's really start looking at it. I mean, they could save their season at the end of the year, but Tennessee would be playing for 2025 instead of, or I'm sorry, 24 instead of 2023 here. Alabama, here's the most weird non-Saban type of stat for this is like a non-Alabama stat that kind of shows how different this team is. They have 48 penalties on the year. 48. Give you a comparison. The Duke Blue Devils have 28. This is a very undisciplined Alabama team. That's my problem with them. Is they show flashes of greatness. Milrose shows times where he's just absolutely electric. And then he's got a guy like Jermaine Burton who just balls out one game. And then all of a sudden, that offense completely disappears. Dallas Turner's got 7 sacks on the year. And then all of a sudden, they're not calling his number very often. Like you're saying, well, where is he? He's not popping out on my screen. Superstar players at Alabama, and that's been the thing with Alabama for years. Superstar players always just pop out on your screen when you watch an Alabama game. Whether it's, Tua, whether it was Bryce Young, whether it was any of those wide receivers, any of the running backs that came through, quarterbacks, you name it. There's always been those type of things. And that's the thing, that it's not consistently popping out in this game. Last year, Jalen Hylett popped in this game. Kid went off against Alabama last year. Does Tennessee have a kid that can do that? Is it going to be Jalen Wright? Is he going to run all over this Crimson Tide defense? Is it going to be Squirrel White, who has one of the coolest names out there in college football? Is he going to be the one? Who is it going to be for either one of these sides that becomes that next superstar that we keep talking about? At the end of the game, there's going to be all these cigars lit up, whether it's Tennessee or whether it's Alabama. It's who is going to be the camera crew. That is the player that the camera crew is looking for to, like, we got to get a shot of this guy smoking a cigar. Like, he was the player of this game smoking the cigar. I don't know where that player is going to come from. And I think that that's what's going to be interesting to find out in this game. Alabama's been playing with fire. This isn't the same Alabama team, and they're at a completely different standard than almost every other team in college football, with the exception of maybe a handful of programs. How many programs in this country would trade off being 6-1 and still have a chance to win your division and conference title, or be in the top? AP has them at number 11 right now. Everyone would trade off for that. But Alabama's held to a different standard, and this Alabama team has been playing too much with fire. I'm going to tell you this, Fresh. I'm going to take Tennessee in the points. I'm going to take Tennessee in those 9. I don't like that. I think you're right. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's going to be a little more points than you said. I got this right around 24-20 type of game. I think it's going to be close. I'm going to go Tennessee in the points. Alabama ekes out another win. And I'm talking ekes out another win. They have the ball last. They put either a touchdown on the board or a field goal on the board to win it all. But yeah, I'm going to say Alabama wins it. And again, I'm with you, Fresh. Give me the under in this game. I don't think the over's coming in at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see. I just think we're going to see a lot of flags. I think there's going to be a lot of motions flying in this football game. We've even seen like Jermaine Burton make a big catch in the field and then do some sort of taunting and take a big. He makes a 20-yard reception, gets a 15-yard penalty. You're going to see some people like things like that are happening that just have you scratching your head, where you take 1 step forward and 2 steps back, and that's where this game's going to be in neutral for a while with hard hits, with sluggish play. Then eventually Alabama finds a way to score and win.